Alright, 9.6c, which is our last day of quadratic problems, quadratic equation, is the application problems. It's just going to introduce you to a couple of problems you're going to see in your homework. You need to know how to solve using the quadratic formula. I hope you do that by the third day at least that you've done this. Be sure to take good notes so you can complete the homework assignment, because the questions that are on this homework are the questions on the, the questions that are on these notes are the questions that are on your homework assignment. So if you see something that says the area of a rectangular shape is 104 square feet, the width is 2x feet and the length is x plus 9 feet. They want the actual measures. What you want to do is, in this problem, recognize that area is found by taking length times width. So length times width equals area. And notice that they give me the length and width here. And so I'm going to put it in a way that is more understandable, which is 2x times x plus 9 equals, and they told me that the area is 104. That then puts me in a position to where I'm going to distribute, getting 2x squared plus 18x equals 104. And the way I like to describe it when we come back after break and you've practiced your factoring and we start solving by factoring and solving by, actually you'll see it tomorrow when we solve by algebra, is that x squared, and usually by this point I've taught it, but x squared is an elephant. I know I'm such a great artist, but x squared is an elephant. There's the big ears and long trunk and the tail. That's a pig on a boat. And if there were a bunch of mice on the boat on this side, and there's an elephant on this side, again that's mice, this is the elephant, of course the boat is flat on top because I don't have any three-dimensional depth perception here. If that's my mice, if that's my elephant, and you're in water, watch this, how the water, didn't you love how as a kid the water goes through the boat? But anyway, if that's water, this is an elephant, and those are mice, what's going to happen when there's an elephant on the boat is this side is going to drop, and everything over here is going to tumble onto that side. And so what you need to keep in mind when solving, starting tomorrow as we get into it, is that when there's an x squared in an equation, because usually whenever there's an x, let's say it's 5x plus 6 equals 7x minus 3, we want to put our x's on one side and our numbers on the other side. If you remember that, I hope you do, because that's very important. What the elephant does is it actually makes everything tumble towards it, so that's what x squared does. Anytime you're solving a problem and you see an x squared, what happens is everything tumbles over to that side. So your 2x squared stays here, your 18x stays there, but the 104 tumbles over to the left side. And remember that if 104 switches sides, that is because you subtract 104 from both sides. So you'd actually turn this into minus 104 and equal 0. So again, the key idea here for this topic is that if you set this up and you have an x squared to solve, everything must come over to one side before you can do this. After that, we do our quadratic formula. A is 2, B is 18, C is negative 104, x equals negative b, there's my formula, and again just plug it in there. I hope this works, we'll see. Negative parentheses 18 plus or minus square root of 18 squared, 4, 2, and 104, sorry, negative 104, that's important, all over 2 times 2. That turns into a negative 18, and again, let's hope this works. 18 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 104 is an ugly number that we hope works out. And whenever I do quadratic formula, I do kind of have my fingers crossed the whole time. If that's you also, that's a natural feeling. And so I will do negative 18 plus square root 1156 equals good divided by 4 equals, and the reason I said good if you didn't see is because that equals 16 divided by 4, which means one of my answers is 4. Then I would do negative 18 minus square root of 1156 equals divided by 4 equals, and get negative 13. Now here's where, because it's an application problem, you must use your common sense. We are talking about the actual length and width, and you need to plug those in. So your length here, based off of 4, would be, because it says your length is x plus 9, that'll be 4 plus 9, which is 13. Your width here, based off of that, would be 2 times 4, which is 8. Your length based off of this number would be negative 13 plus 9, which is negative 4, and based off of what I know there, you cannot have a negative 4 as a length and width, which means this is the only answer that works. Now the trick you have to be careful of is that on the computer it's going to say what is length, what is width, and you must put the numbers in the right spot. That's about the only thing that you might get caught up on if you get this far, which is good if you can get this far. But if you can get that far, that's about the only thing that's going to catch you up, is making sure you put the proper number in the proper place. And after that, I think you'll be fine, because again, these questions aren't really hard, and as I explained before, I wanted to do the toughest part of your week earlier in the week, which is actually learning the quadratic formula and making sure you know how to do it on a regular basis. Again, same thing here, just making sure you're ready for your homework. Area of a rectangular shape, 204 square feet. They give me a width, they give me a length, so as you get better, you'll just say length times width, again, doesn't matter what the order is, equals your area. You will naturally then distribute 4x squared plus 56, because 4 times 4 is 16, carry the 1, 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 makes 5, equals 204. Again, that should be an x on that. 4x squared plus 56x equals 204. That x squared is an elephant, if you remember in your brain, so that means 204 is going to tumble over. Keep in mind, again, when it tumbles over, it's going to switch signs, so it's going to become minus 204, and then from there you do what we've been trained to do, which is to simply put a equals 4, b is 56, c is negative 204. Write your formula and go from there. So negative parentheses 56 plus or minus square root of 56 squared minus 4 for negative 204 all over 2 times 4. Again, switching this out, you get negative 56, and again, crossing your fingers for something good here, something that's not ugly. Parentheses 56 squared minus 4 parentheses 4 parentheses negative 204 equals 6400, which I believe is a good number, over 8. And again, typing this in, negative 56 plus square root 6400 equals, divided by 8 equals 3 is one of my answers. And then doing it the other way, negative 56 plus square root of 6400, I'm sorry, not plus, minus, divided by 8 equals, and again, this is where if your application problems there, you kind of need to check that answer. But again, remember, the key thing is that these are not your answers. These are the values that will lead to your answer. It said that my width is 4x, and so 4 times 3 is 12, and you do want to make sure you know which one's which, and that my length is x plus 14, and so 3 plus 14 would be 17. The good news is you can actually check this out. 12 times 17 is 204, which is what you're supposed to have here. So that one works, but again, if you took this negative 17, plugged it in there, you know you're going to get a negative answer, which means that that is the only answer that works. Alright. C. The path that an object follows is given by the formula there, where x is the horizontal distance in feet and y is the height in feet. What's the maximum height of the object? This again is where you need to make sure you know what you're looking at in the formula. The maximum height, oh yeah, that is right. The maximum height comes from the vertex. And so then this is where you have to understand what's going on with your quadratic formula. The maximum height comes from your vertex. Because the maximum height comes from your vertex, the logical situation is that we need the key x, because remember, your key x gives me my vertex. Once I find my key x, the maximum is actually a value of y. So again, what you should be thinking when you see maximum is that maximum is part of the vertex. The vertex must be found by finding my key x, but my key x is not going to give me my maximum, because remember, maximum is height. Height is y. So what we're going to do is put my x equals negative b over 2a. This is b, which means negative 24 over 2 times negative 0.4, which is of course going to be negative 0.8. Negative 24 divided by negative 0.8 is 30. And again, the trick here is to remember that you don't stop there, and you'll know because the computer will mark you wrong if you type that in. But we do want the y value, which means that we are simply going to plug it in here. Into our calculator. So negative 0.4 times 30 squared plus 24 times 30 plus 3 gives me my max height of 363. And that's all you'll need to do. So there is no quadratic formula on that question, but again, you do need to make sure you understand the concept of what's going on with this stuff, and that comes from last week's work. D. Again, in this problem, looking at this, we have maximum height is what we want. We know that maximum height is based off of a vertex. We know that vertex cannot be found without the key x, and we know that the key x should give me the value of y that we are looking for. So again, we go to our x equals negative b over 2a, which means we again use a negative 24, which is good, over double that, you get negative 0.6. Quick numbers, and quick thing if you want to know how to do this in math, you don't like decimals and fractions, so I'm going to move the decimal over, making this negative 240 over 6, which makes, since 6 goes into 24 4 times with the carrying 0, makes your answer possibly, or makes your answer 40. You can check that in your calculator to make sure, but again, these are all number tricks that you want to eventually know how to do, because they say that your higher your number sense, the better off you are in math. That's why some of you think that math is easy even though you don't work as hard as you can, because your number sense is high and you have the ability to kind of go through the tough part that people struggle with. But either way, that is your key x. That is not your answer. You just want to now take your answer and plug it in. When you ask me a question on this, if you ask me a question on this, just make sure you show me this portion of your work at least, or if you type it into a calculator. Actually, if you go that far, I can probably help you. If you at least show me what the key x you got is, I can probably help you out with that. But anyway, negative 0.3 times 40 squared plus 24 times 40 plus 5 equals 485. And so that would be the answer that you're going to use. So tomorrow we look at how to solve using algebra. I don't know which one's next, but we do have a lesson tomorrow. We do have, yes, because Thursday and Friday are how to solve with algebra. And then next week is spring break. The week after we will come back, we will talk about solve by factoring, which is why I said that you have all these days to kind of get your factoring under control. And again, that's up to you to do. All the videos are on Math Excel. I don't think the homework's up, but I mean, at least watching the video, you should at least be able to bring things back to memory or work through it and try to see what's going on. Again, I think all of you are smart enough to do it. It's just some of you like to lie to yourself and not really do what you're supposed to do. But again, solve by factoring here. And then after that, I believe we will do complete the square. Actually, no, I don't think we'll do. I think that'll be, once we get to solve by factoring, that'll be the end of our chapter 9, and then we'll spend the last 2 weeks going through 10 and 11 and making sure we do that. Keep in mind that your grades, again, represent your fourth quarter grades, so you do want to be doing this. If you just now decide to start working, even though you, again, are a 5-weight student and have definitely should have been checking your email at some point, because I had that message up there the Tuesday we went out. You have a lot of work to do, but again, the good news is I'm not putting a lot of homework on Math Excel. You just have to get to work and make sure you have your passing homework average, because now at this point homework is pretty much the major part of your grade. So just make sure your homework is getting done and that you're taking care of business the way you're supposed to. Other than that, again, have a good day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow morning. Good luck.